Let's bring in our right-thinking man on the left coast, Newsmax contributor James Hirsen. James, we hear those remarks from Al Sharpton, pardon the pun, somewhat colorful, always controversial. Can you believe how Hollywood has catered to Reverend Al?
Well, sure. I mean, they opened the door during the Sony hack story when Amy Pascal, the co-chair of Sony, invited Al Sharpton. She was seeking, his indulgence and his blessing after she had those emails exposed where she had told a racist joke with a producer, and she kind of implied that he would be involved in the green lighting or the approval of films. So he's become a film mogul, and now he couldn't resist jumping into this so-called controversy. I mean, we're talking mainly about the movie Selma, and Selma was nominated for Best Picture, and Al Sharpton seems to forget that last year, 12 Years a Slave won the Best Picture. It won Best Supporting Actress. It's as if and also, he doesn't seem to remember the content of the movie Selma, which was a biopic about Martin Luther King, who talked about being colorblind. And in a competition that at least ostensibly deals with the content of movies, you're not supposed to be thinking about diversity, multiculturalism, or affirmative action. The voters, the 6,000 voters of the Academy, are supposed to be thinking about artistic content, which in this case, they followed the lead of the critics, and the bulk of the nominations went to those movies and those actors and actresses that were the favorites.
James, the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite has blown up Twitter. Many tweeting satire, but others tweeting outrage. Have we taken an even bigger step backwards, would you say?
No, I don't. I don't believe. I actually agree with what the previous expert had said. Looking at this, I think this just has to do with a very crowded field of a very unique and creative cinema. You know, you have one movie, Birdman, that was shot. The bulk of it was shot in one day. You have another movie, Boyhood, the bulk of which was shot over 12 years. You have these sort of novel delivery systems going on, and you have very, very popular, long-time actors and actresses doing their best work. That Selma was a great movie, but it was up against some stiff competition, and it didn't get nominated because of the lack of space, if you will, except two big nominations, Best Picture and Best Song. It will win Best Song, probably will not win Best Picture.
Well, it's interesting you start to speculate on who's going to win what, because, James, we're going to have you come right back and talk more about what may happen with the Academy Awards, especially in view of the fact that American Sniper goes into national release this weekend, and what that might mean. Does that theme, given the leftist nature of Hollywood, does that mean no go for Bradley Cooper in that film? We'll talk more about that with James Hirsen right after this. Let's ask our Newsmax contributor on the left coast, our good friend James Hirsen, back with us now. Is this a sore subject for a lot of members of the Academy, James?
Well, it's a difficult subject for them to understand because Chris Kyle, you know, as you pointed out, the greatest marksman in the history of the military, nicknamed the Legend. He saved lives. They can understand that, but he saved lives by effectively killing the enemy. They don't understand that. They're liberals. And the other thing, of course, Clint Eastwood, they remember what he did at the GOP convention with that empty chair. So this will all weigh into it. The other thing is, of course, I mentioned that this is a crowded field. It's very unfortunate for Bradley Cooper that he's up against Michael Keaton. If I'm forced to bet, Michael Keaton will win Best Actor for a lot of reasons, part of which is sentimental, and that for his role in Birdman. It's unfortunate American Sniper's up against both Birdman and Boyhood, two big critic favorites. And although American Sniper's gotten great reviews, it's not nearly at the level of critical adulation that they're giving to these two films, Birdman and Boyhood. So the chances are American Sniper is a long shot for winning the major awards.
James, how political would you say the nomination process is?
Well, I mean, it's not consciously political. It just has to do with the fact that Hollywood is this insular community that happens to have the great majority of people in it happen to have the same political views. And so they don't mind, for example, when a 3-hour film like Boyhood shoehorns liberal messaging into the movie. They don't even notice it. It's part of their fabric, where it would offend someone like me. And so it won't affect their voting where it would if there were, more people who had right of center or even center views as part of the Academy. So there is an unconscious political aspect to Hollywood, and every once in a while it comes out. It certainly did back when Clint Eastwood had his movie Gran Torino, which was an incredible film, which literally was shut out, got 0 nominations. Now that's discrimination.
About a minute left. I want to switch gears. You mentioned Michael Keaton being your pick for Best Actor. I'm just wondering, within the Academy, in addition to the job in the film, did he help himself with that acceptance speech at the Golden Globes?
I'm glad you brought that up, JD. That acceptance speech was incredible, genuine, and it had a conservative content to it, but they won't even notice because it was filled with emotion. What he said was essentially, work hard, don't give up, never complain, be grateful, don't quit. And my best friend, I want to thank my son. So it expressed family values. But the thing about Michael Keaton, that film is biographical in his real life because he walked away from Batman. This character in this film walks away from a fictitious superhero role, Birdman. And so I think there's a sentimental aspect, although Michael Keaton was unbelievably spectacular, virtuoso performance in a very dark, dismal movie.
See, when I hear Birdman, I think of the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Birdman. But our man in Hollywood, James Hirsen, we thank you. There's more ahead here on America's Forum.